esta mujer, su sonrisa me da... y la forma de hablar, que en vez de... Yo qué sé, tú cuando hablas, la boca no se te va para arriba, ¿no? Así como para los ojos, ¿no? Tú hablas, se puede abrir la boca hacia los lados, o si sonríe un poco hacia arriba, ¿no? Pero eso así para arriba me da miedo. Muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes, muy buenas noches. Como siempre os digo, dependiendo de cuando estéis viendo el directo o el vídeo que va a generar el directo, que también lo podréis ver en el canal de YouTube. Hecho resumen, no nos vamos a demorar más y nos vamos a ir directamente con el juego, ¿eh? Vamos para allá. Bueno, pues salimos de la habitación y ahí tenemos al primer sospechoso. Este hombre era el hijo del fiscal del caso de Locke. Algo tiene que ver. Caballero. Él lo sabe ya, ¿eh? Él sabe que le vamos a meter caña.
Entropy, Monsieur McQueen.
Oh, Mr. Poirot, I didn't see you. Entropy? Randomness in a system or something?
Yes, unpredictability. Even the best laid plans can go astray, thanks to something as simple as...
An unexpected passenger?
Perhaps. Or snow.
Ah, pues no le ha dicho nada y yo creía que iba a hablar algo más con él. A ver. Aquí que me hace la paradiña siempre. Esta es mi habitación. A ver, aquí hay una habitación abierta. ¿Por qué? Ah, porque están aquí, mira.
I have nothing to ask them at the moment.
No, esta es Hubbard. Esta es Hubbard y la otra no sé quién es, la verdad. No me acuerdo. Imagino que estará en el bar como siempre. ¿Ves? Ahí está. Esta mujer siempre está aquí.
Good evening, Fräulein Schmidt. May I disturb you for a moment?
You asked so politely, mein Herr, but I do not think I have a choice.
Esta mujer no tiene una sonrisa extraña. Como que se le sube para arriba. Qué raro, ¿no? Qué miedo. ¿Cómo enfocar el tema de la señora Locke? Del tirón. Usted drogó a la señora Locke. Yo le entraría a saco, la verdad. ¿Le entramos a saco? Venga, vamos a entrarle a saco. Usted drogó a la señora Locke, directamente.
I know you drugged Mademoiselle Locke's tea. Don't try to deny it.
Nevertheless, I do deny it.
Aún así lo niego. Pues este no le ha gustado. Así que vamos a ir a por el otro, más suave. Tenemos que llevar la investigación más suave.
I wanted to let you know that your roommate, Mademoiselle Locke, is awake.
Ah, yes, I'm glad to hear that. I was worried about her. Did she tell you what had happened to her?
Detalle importante que no me acordaba. Que es que son compañeras de habitación. Que de eso yo no me acordaba. ¿Cómo enfocar el tema de los tranquilizantes? La señora Locke vio cómo usted la drogaba. No, restos en la taza.
Unfortunately, she doesn't remember much, but we found a residue of a sleeping pill in her cup of tea. Since you two were alone together in your room when she drank it, who else but you could have drugged her?
Must I point out I do not make the tea on this train? You should question the conductor or the kitchen staff.
¿Cómo hacer confesar a la señora Smith? ¿Cómo podemos hacerla confesar? Pues... Tiene tranquilizantes en su poder. La señora Locke estuvo a punto de morir. Estuvo a punto de morir.
Mademoiselle Locke could have died.
Esa no va a ser, pero
Whoever
vamos.
drugged her must not feel any empathy for their fellow human beings, given the dose that Mademoiselle Locke ingested. She was close to death.
Oh my God. What did I do? I didn't want to hurt her. Just have her sleep for a few hours while we had time.
We? Time for what? Time for what, Madame Schmidt?
You think I feel nothing? Nothing? That poor little girl.
Indeed, that poor, poor little girl. Fräulein Schmidt is somehow connected to the Armstrong case.
Hombre, y tanto. ¿Cuál podría ser el vínculo entre la señora Smith y el caso Armstrong? La cocinera de la princesa Dragomirov, la cocinera de los Armstrong, la acompañante de Sonia Armstrong. Nos vamos a equivocar seguro, ¿ok? Nos vamos a equivocar seguro, seguro, seguro. Yo creo que es la cocinera de los Armstrong, fíjate. ¡Ole!
That's the right answer. Fräulein Schmidt, I have a certain reputation for sniffing out...
I am not a murderer.
Forgive me, but I was going to say brilliant chefs. You were the Armstrong family's cook, were you not?
Yes. I was the cook of that lovely, lovely family. I'm sorry, but I must ask you to give me some time to collect myself. It wasn't supposed to be like this. My darling, my poor darling child.
I will give you that time, Fräulein. You have given me much more in exchange. I must check in with my other suspects to make certain I have all the pieces of the puzzle in my possession.
Me sigue poniendo muy nerviosa. Esta mujer, su sonrisa me da... y la forma de hablar, que en vez de... Yo qué sé, tú cuando hablas, la boca no se te va para arriba, ¿no? Así como para los ojos, ¿no? Tú hablas, se puede abrir la boca hacia los lados, o si sonríe un poco hacia arriba, ¿no? Pero eso así para arriba me da miedo. Tenemos que hablar con el señor Smith. El señor Smith, si no recuerdo mal, es el revisor.
Can I get you something, Monsieur Poirot? Everyone is so tense.
An aperitif soon, Monsieur Fauché, with pleasure, when the matter is resolved.
Nada más que quiere darme arco. No lo entiendo. Nada más que quiere darme arco. El revisor debería haber estado por ahí sentado, ¿no? Revisando. El revisor trabaja menos. Vamos a ver. Mira estos dos.
You're right, Mr. Book. This dessert is delicious. I'm glad we didn't wait for dinner.
I promise the entrée will be superb as well.
Detective Locke, you are recovering well, I see.
Yes, I should be helping with the investigation. Do you know who drugged me?
It is early yet for conclusions. When I return, then we shall see.
Do not worry, Poirot. She is in good hands. Hotaru, Freya, and yours truly are looking after her.
Aquí tiene que estar la de los postres. Ah, mira, aquí está Mori. ¡Mori!
Not now. I
Vale.
have dinner to prepare. Would you interrupt Michelangelo or Da Vinci?
Vale, vale. Me parece muy bien. Pero te voy a abrir la nevera y me voy a ir, ¿vale? Venga, adiós. Ahora se te va a calentar el agua. Aquí está el revisor, ¿no? Esta es la habitación de... ¡Ah! Señor. Tenemos que hablar.
Good evening, Michel. Am I bothering you? You seem stressed.
With everything that's going on, I must admit it's difficult to be relaxed.
Of course, I understand. Especially since we know that Detective Locke's tea was drugged before it was served to her.
Detective?
Come now, Michel. Surely you would have taken the opportunity to search her things and found her badge. Luckily, she woke up and was finally able to tell us her story.
Hotaru boiled the water, Jean made the tea. I just brought it. Sir, it could have been any of the staff.
Your defense is to accuse others?
Oh.
You have a network connection?
No, unfortunately. It's just an automatic reminder to pay my rent. I always forget, and my landlord complains.
Pierre Michel had to be involved in the murder. The drugged tea? his post at the end of the hall, and now I know why I know more than one of those people on the screen.
Aquí todo el mundo tiene relación con el caso. Es decir, que aquí no hay nadie que se haya montado en el tren por decir, voy a dar un viajito. Nadie. Y yo tengo un sospechoso de primera hora. De primera hora tengo un sospechoso. ¿Quién es la persona de la izquierda? ¿De la izquierda de qué? ¿Estar como miro a la pantalla o la izquierda de si estuviese yo mirando a la pantalla? Vamos a ver. El de la izquierda se supone que es este, ¿vale? Y ese es Pierre Michael.
Nice.
Bien. La persona del centro, Susan Moreau. La niñera de la niña.
Adequate.
Y ahora quiero el comodín de la llamada, ¿te imaginas? ¿Quién es la persona de la derecha? Cyrus Hartman.
Fantastic. Et voilà. You are the father of Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's nanny. My condolences on the death of your wife.
What? But my wife...
Enough lies. Suzanne does not bear your name?
No. Suzanne's mother and I were divorced. Suzanne kept her mother's name.
My most sincere condolences, Monsieur Michel, on the deaths of Suzanne and your wife.
This job, I loved them, but I was never there for them. Then, a year after the divorce, Solange became ill. Suzanne took her to this special hospital in the US. Got that job as Daisy's nanny.
I understand your pain, and the reason that led you to drug detective luck.
We really can't hide anything from you, can we?
Many have been foolish enough to try and keep
No,
the
no
truth
podéis
from
ocultarme
Hercule
nada, ¿no?
Poirot.
Yes, I admit, I drugged the tea. But it was only to keep her quiet until I could... But she reacted so much to the sleeping pills.
She
Oh,
was
se la ha escapado.
sorry
Pudiéramos.
that
Se
she
la ha
didn't
escapado.
die. To be frank, there is one more thing that puzzled me, but I think I understand now.
La relación del señor Hartman con el señor Michael. El señor Hartman es el novio del señor Michael, no. Era el futuro yerno del señor Michael. Correcto. Por lo tanto, el señor Hartman puede ser Noah.
Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé.
Huh. I have the impression my whole life to you is an open book. Yes, Cyrus was my daughter's fiancé. I almost consider Cyrus as my own son.
Of course, much more is clear now. I have been patient long enough. It is time to go and see what all the commotion is next door.
Sí, es verdad, que lleva ya un rato sonando eso ahí. ¿Qué quiere este?
Mr. Hardman, excellent. The gods who watch over detectives must have trapped you here.
Why didn't they watch over me? I'm a detective too. I was talking to Michelle about a leaky faucet, and I
Un
wanted to
grifo
go out,
que
but,
gotea.
you should.
Yeah.
No need to invent some preposterous story.
But really,
Michel has told me everything. You are the fiancé of Suzanne Moreau, his daughter.
Oh. I see.
Surely this is not a big surprise to you.
No. Suzanne was the only woman I ever loved. And I failed her. We got into a spat. It was nothing, but I was too proud to apologize. We weren't speaking at all, Suzanne never really cared for that guy Noah. She would have forgiven me. If only. If only.
If only. A common refrain between lovers who quarrel. Obviously, Pierre Michel and Fräulein Schmidt both drugged Detective Locke's tea, causing the overdose. No wonder she had so much trouble waking up. Time to report my findings to her and book.
Pero, ¿por qué? Mira, un bigote.
You can never have too many of these.
Pero, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué adulterarte? Es que no lo entiendo, lo de adulterarte de ella. ¿Por qué? Si ella iba investigando al asesino de la niña, que ha sido, bueno, ha resultado ser el muerto del tren, y ahí todo el mundo tiene relación con el caso de la niña. Por lo tanto, todos, prácticamente todos, tienen motivo para matar a ese hombre.
I wonder if our master chef gets his recipes from a game.
No era muy interesante la información, ¿no? Eso es por estar ahí, ¿no? Tenemos que salir por la habitación de este hombre. Te iba a decir que ya no estás, pero sí estás. Déjame ver tu teléfono, ¿no? Me voy. Este estaba en el restaurante comiendo. Vamos a avisar y yo creo que vamos a tener que reunir a todo el mundo y decirle, tú has hecho esto, tú has hecho lo otro. Ah, bueno.
So, my friend, tell me, you have something new?
Venga, los tranquilizantes.
Mademoiselle Locke, I know who drugged you. Fräulein Schmidt and our conductor Pierre Michel both admitted putting sleeping pills into your tea. This explains your overdose. They are relieved you are recovering.
Michel drugged a passenger? On behalf of the company, I offer my apologies to you, Mademoiselle Locke. Michel will answer for this outrage.
Both of them? I was pretty sure about Fräulein Schmidt, but I admit that I did not suspect the conductor.
Y ahora te vas a enterar tú con el caso Astro. Verás tú, el caso Astro es la conversación más larga que van a tener esta gente en los días de la vida.
I have uncovered multiple connections with the Armstrong case. Pierre Michel is the father of Suzanne Moreau, little Daisy's nanny, and Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé. As for Hildegard Schmidt, she was the cook of the Armstrong family. What a coincidence, don't you think?
But it's incredible! What are the odds that so many people linked to that tragic affair ended up on the same train?
About the same as you winning the lottery, my friend.
I wasn't the officer who interviewed Fräulein Schmidt back then, so she couldn't recognize me here on the train. How could they know who I was?
There were other passengers who might have. Or she may have seen you when you visited the Armstrong home. It is now clear to me that some of the clues to this elaborate plot were staged for my benefit.
¿Qué es lo que querían que creyese? Pues que el asesino subió al tren en Vinkovsky, mató a Rasha y bajó inmediatamente. Esa es una teoría fuerte, porque eso es lo que estábamos investigando al principio. Estábamos investigando de que el asesino subió, se hizo pasar por un empleado del tren y quisieron hacernos creer que saltó por la ventana, ¿no? Porque había unos pasos fuera y demás. Que el asesino embarcó en el tren en Vinkovsky, mató a Rashe y sigue en el tren. No. Que el asesino subió al tren en Estambul, mató a Rashe y se bajó en Belgrado. Me puedo equivocar, pero yo creo que es la primera, ¿eh? Yo me la voy a jugar con la primera. ¡Vamos ahí!
My My little gray cells did not let me down. Some clues and information collected so far could lead to a hypothesis. The murderer boarded the train in Vinkovsky, killed Ratchet, and then left the train immediately.
How did you come to that possibility?
Monsieur Hardman told me about a short man with a high-pitched voice who threatened Ratchet. Imagine for a moment that this man, wearing a wagon-lit conductor's jacket, killed him while Michel was on the platform at Vinkovsky. This murderer then hid the conductor's jacket in Detective Locke's room, then fled before the train left.
Why choose Detective Locke's room?
Why, indeed. Let me re-explain from the beginning.
Reconstrucción de la pista falsa. Reconstruye los eventos de la pista. Venga. Vale. El asesino sube al tren disfrazado de revisor. Eso es en el Biskorski, ¿cómo se llame? El asesino baja del tren. Pierre Michel vuelve a subir al tren que se marcha a las 12:10. Eso es cuando el asesino deja el cuchillo allí perdiendo un botón de la chaqueta en el proceso. El tren se detiene en Bikoki a medianoche. El señor Michael baja. Yo creo que esa es la primera. El asesino se deshace de la chaqueta. El asesino mata a Ratchet y escapa por la habitación de Madame Hubbard. Vale, yo creo que la primera es que el tren se detiene en Bikoki a medianoche y el señor Michael baja al andén. Creo que es la primera. El señor Michael abajo del tren, por lo tanto, el asesino se sube al tren disfrazado de revisor. El asesino baja del tren tiene que ser lo último. Por lógica, ¿no? Digo yo. Se sube al tren. Deja el cuchillo allí perdiendo un botón de la chaqueta. No. Lo mata. Lo mata. Deja el cuchillo allí que se lo mete en el bolso a la señora Hubbard. Esta. Tira la chaqueta. Pues no puede ser. Tiene que ser que este baje y este hombre suba. Y ya entonces nos vamos. Me parece una buena línea. El tren se para. El asesino sube al tren. Bueno, el tren se para y el revisor se baja. El asesino se sube al tren disfrazado de revisor. Porque ya el revisor no está. Está en el andén. El asesino mata a Ratchet y escapa por la habitación de la señora, a la cual le deja el cuchillo en el bolso. Se deshace de la chaqueta. No, no puede ser. Tiene que bajar del tren y deshacerse de la chaqueta. Tiene que ser al revés. Así. Porque no se puede deshacer de la chaqueta y bajarse ya a pleno cuerpo. A pleno cuerpo no puede ser. Se tiene que bajar del tren pareciendo revisor y ahí es cuando suelta la chaqueta. Y entonces ya se sube. Yo creo que es así. ¿Me la juego? Vámonos. Pues no. Algo nos falla. Algo nos falla. Yo creía que mi teoría era buena. Pero no. No es buena mi teoría. Mi teoría no es buena. Que deje la chaqueta. A ver si al final iba a dejar la chaqueta y se iba a bajar. Yo qué sé. Venga, vamos a ponerlo así. Pues era como decía yo la primera. Pero no tenía lógica, ¿no? Bajarse del tren con la ropa de calle, ¿no?
That must be it. Everything fits so well.
It fits too well, my friend. Other clues lead to a second hypothesis, much more plausible.
Venga, ¿cuál es la hipótesis más probable? ¿Hubo varios asesinos que escaparon en Bitcoin? No. ¿Hay varios asesinos que querían el dinero de Ratchet? Hay varios asesinos, todos... Esa es. Todos relacionados con el caso Armstrong. Todos. Si estoy chillando mucho me lo decís, que es que yo me vengo arriba, ¿eh?
yours, all
Que puede ser que petardee el micrófono y todo.
case. The murderer from Vinkovsky was a fabrication to turn suspicion away from those on the train. They expected the investigation to be led by some small-town official who could easily be misled.
Mr. Poirot?
Detective Locke, forgive me. You are an obvious exception. You tracked Ratchet with the tenacity of a bloodhound. Unfortunately for the killers, they not only had you to deal with, but now they had, and I say this with all modesty, the world's greatest detective, Hercule Poirot, dropped into the midst of their meticulous planning.
Multiple murderers? Multiple detectives? Poirot, please take pity on me. Who is linked to this case and who is not?
My poor friend, I have gone speeding out of the station without you. I will continue.
¿Quiénes son las 9 personas que están relacionadas con el caso Armstrong? Mira. Foscarelli era el chofer del papá. Cyrus Hartman era el novio de la niñera. Esta nada. Joanna Locke era la investigadora. McQueen era el hijo del fiscal del caso. Masterman no tenía relación. Encontramos un billete de él, pero no nada inusual, ¿no? No. A ver, espérate un momentito. Okay. Ahí. Nada inusual. Pierre Michael era, bueno, es el padre de Susan, la niñera de la niña. Elena Andrengi es la hermana de la madre de la niña. Ratchet era, o presuntamente, el asesino de la niña. Y Hildegard Smith era la cocinera. ¿Cuántos llevo? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 y me falta uno. Me falta uno. Ah, bueno, espérate, era esta, ¿no? Era esta que trabajaba... Claro, era esta, tío. Que trabajaba en un museo, no sé qué.
Fraulein Schmidt, Pierre Michel, Monsieur Hardman and Monsieur McQueen are all linked to the Armstrong case. I also know that Sonia Armstrong's sister and godmother, Countess Andreni and Princess Dragomirov, are on this train. And finally, Detective Locke discovered that Mr. Foscarelli was the Armstrong chauffeur.
If we add Detective Locke and Ratchet, of the 12 passengers in that coach, 9 have a connection with the Armstrong case. What next, Poirot? Or should I say, who next?
It is time to summon everyone.
Everyone? Even Dr. Constantine? The train crew other than Michel?
Dr. Constantine, yes. I will need him. But we don't want the others as witnesses.
I will see that their duties keep them occupied elsewhere.
Excellent. I have always thought this moment in a case is much like Rodin unveiling the thinker before a captivated audience. A work of art. Have you not felt that way, Detective?
No, Mr. Poirot. I'm happy just to slap the cuffs on him.
Well, there is some artistry in that as well, I suppose.
Where would you like the unveiling, Poirot? The lounge?
Perfect.
Then I will gather all the passengers in the lounge.
Venga, a ver. Lo que yo decía, me los va a traer a todos y ahí los vamos a poner contra la espada y la pared. Esto está llegando al final, ¿eh? Escúchame. No vea qué viaje platosa ha comido ese hombre, ¿eh? Gasta más hambre que Garfield. Ah, es aquí, es aquí. No vea qué pila gente, ¿eh? Señores, esto huele a final, ¿eh? Esto huele a final.
Monsieur Book, are the train crew locked in their quarters?
Yes, they are.
Then the stage is set for the final act. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you together to hear my reconstruction of the murder of Samuel Edward Ratchet, also known as Cassetti. There is not one, but two possible solutions of the crime. I shall put them both before you, and I shall ask Monsieur Bouc and Dr. Constantine here to judge which solution is the correct one.
2 solutions?
Mr. Poirot, I am hardly qualified.
Nevertheless, your assistance is required. Now, you all know the facts of the case. Ratchet was found stabbed to death this morning. He was
Ya están todos más mosqueados que un pavo en Navidad.
at 12:37 a.m. last night when he spoke to the wagon-lit conductor through the door. His watch was found to be badly dented, and it had stopped at 1:15. Dr. Constantine, who examined the body, puts the time of death as having occurred between midnight and 2 in the morning. At half an hour after midnight, as you all know, the train ran into a snowdrift. After that time, it was impossible for anyone to leave the train. So, here is my first theory. The enemy, as Ratchet expected, joined the train at Vinkovsky by the door left open by Captain Arbuthnot and Monsieur McQueen, who had just descended to the platform. He was equipped with a wagon-lit jacket, which he wore over his ordinary clothes, and a pass key which enabled him to gain access to Ratchet's compartment in spite of the doors being locked. Ratchet was under the influence of a sleeping draught. This man stabbed him with great ferocity, 12 wounds in all. He left the compartment through the communicating door to Madame Hubbard's compartment.
Yes, that's so. Scared me half out of my wits.
The murderer thrust the dagger he had used into Mrs. Hubbard's handbag in passing. Without knowing it, he lost a button of his uniform. Then he slipped out of the compartment and along the corridor. He put the uniform jacket into Detective Locke's suitcase to cast suspicion on her. And a few minutes later, dressed in his ordinary clothes, he left the train just before it started off again, using the same means for egress, the door near the dining car. That is the first hypothesis. But there's a second. For that, we must examine the motive for the crime. Why
¿Os habéis dado cuenta del
was
detalle, no?
Ratchet killed?
¿Os habéis dado cuenta del detalle? Como la de la sonrisa extraña, todo el mundo ha hecho así y ha agachado la cabeza, ¿no? Y la de la sonrisa extraña ha mirado primero para el lado y después, viendo que todo el mundo lo hacía, eso ella también ahí. ¿Habéis dado cuenta del detalle, no? Pues yo sí. ¿Cuál era el móvil del crimen? Venganza, totalmente. Ni dinero, ni nada, porque el dinero tienen todos ahí. Porque si montarse en ese tren vale una pasta. Ahí tienen todos dinero. Venganza.
The motive is clear. Revenge, of course. Nothing was stolen. And we know that Ratchet had made many enemies. This was a premeditated crime, meticulously planned.
¿Cuándo se planeó el crimen? Justo antes de salir de Estambul. Varios meses antes. Yo creo que varios meses. Varios meses. Y hubo un detalle en el andén que me llamó mucho la atención, que es el capitán Arbuthnot estaba hablando con la Marie no sé qué esa, y ella le dijo, ahora no, cuando todo acabe. Esto lo podéis ver en el primer capítulo, porque fue en el prólogo, creo, que está en mi canal de YouTube. Ahí lo podéis ver. Yo creo que varios meses antes.
Since the kidnapping and death of little Daisy Armstrong, which traumatized many people close to the family. Even when the police concluded that it was Suzanne Moreau, questions remained. Detective Locke continued her investigation, as did others. They became convinced the truth lay elsewhere. We now know who the real murderer of Daisy is.
¿Quién es el verdadero asesino de Daisy? Esto lo tenemos claro todo, ¿no? ¿Lo tenemos claro o no? Que es Rachel, ¿no? Porque Susan Moreau fue la niñera a la que inculparon feamente. Muy feamente. Es Rachel.
It is clear now that Daisy's killer was Ratchet, also known as Cassetti and Michael Clark and how many other names. But of course, many of you have known this for a long time. It is obvious that the 12 stab wounds are not a random number. Dr. Constantine's analysis revealed that some stab wounds appeared to have been caused by a right-handed attacker. Others indicated the knife wielder was left-handed. Some wounds were deep, more than one fatal, yet others were not much more than mere scratches. What can explain these discrepancies? This leads us to an obvious conclusion. They are symbolic.
Son simbólicas. No vea, nos estamos yendo ya lo estamos convirtiendo esto en algo turbio, ¿eh? Como poco turbio. ¿Qué simbolizan las 12 puñaladas? Un jurado de los Estados Unidos. O la edad de Daisy. Yo no recuerdo si Daisy tenía 12 años. Yo creo que era más chica, ¿no? Yo creo que era más chica. Es que ya no... A ver. Ya no me va a dejar... ¿Ves? Ya no me va a dejar de ir atrás para mirar la... Un jurado en los Estados Unidos son 12 personas.
12 stabs. 12! The same number as a trial jury in the United States. But not just a jury of 12 members condemning him to death, but 12 executioners as well. This self-appointed jury had meticulously planned for everything except
Snow.
snow. The avalanche that stopped us, as well as the presence of not one but 2 detectives on the train. They had to improvise, to hastily add clues and false leads.
Voy a poner la chaqueta del revisor porque es lo primero que nos llamaba la atención.
The conductor's jacket, found in Detective Locke's suitcase, was put there only to cast suspicion upon her.
Ah, que tengo que hablar de todo, vale, ¿no? Que me creí que tenía que elegir algo. El kimono rojo me llama mucho la curiosidad, porque vi a una mujer rubia corriendo con un kimono rojo puesto la noche del asesinato, pero todavía no se ha hablado nada de eso.
This woman in a red kimono does not exist. I don't know which of the passengers it was. It does not really matter. It was just a performance, a charade to introduce another possible culprit to muddy the waters.
Ya sé quién es, la del kimono rojo, ¿vale? Es la rubia esta que estaba antes hablando con la señora esta que está sentada en medio, con la señora Hubbard, que no sabemos nada de ella. Pues esa es la del kimono rojo. El reloj roto.
Time on Ratchet's broken watch was deliberately set to conceal the true time of the crime.
Y el líquido del cigarrillo electrónico.
The vial of vaping liquid incriminated Captain Arbuthnot. However,
Eso es.
he had a solid alibi confirmed by Monsieur McQueen. Impossible then to suspect him. All these false leads were intended for me. But I am Poirot. I understood the truth. We
Ya
have a
está con la
train
vanidad.
full of suspects. It's time to identify who the real culprits are. Let's start with Detective Locke.
¿Apuñaló la inspectora Locke a Ratchet? No. Ahí, ¿esto por qué cambia? ¿Ves? Ah, porque si digo que sí, le pone cara de mala. Y si pongo que no, le pone cara de buena, mira. Ah, ¿dónde estaba? Que no te encontraba. Pues mira. No. ¿Cuál es la prueba que exonera a la señora Locke? Es inspectora, nadie la vio durante el crimen, la habían drogado. La habían drogado. Esta señora estaba endrogada.
Planting the conductor's jacket in her suitcase was an attempt to implicate Detective Locke, but she couldn't fake her drugged condition. Dr. Constantine can testify that the drugged tea incapacitated her for hours, and she had 2 relapses. Let us move on to Monsieur McQueen.
Vamos, señor McQueen.
I told him about Cassetti. He looked very surprised that I managed to make the connection between him and the Armstrong case. He told me, "But I thought we had..." I think he meant...
¿Qué quería decir el señor McQueen? Pues hablar en plural ya sabemos lo que hay, ¿no? Creía que habíamos eliminado todas las pruebas, creía que ya habíamos arrestado al culpable. Yo creo que él decía creía que habíamos eliminado todas las pruebas. Sinceramente.
You thought you didn't leave any real clues linking the murder to the Armstrong kidnapping. Moreover, you insisted that Ratchet did not speak French when you knew I had heard a voice calling out in French that was supposed to be Ratchet.
¿Apuñaló el señor McQueen a Ratchet? Yo creo que sí, porque en venganza porque su padre tuvo que dimitir por el caso. ¿Qué inculpa al señor McQueen? El padre.
You took some pleasure in leaving me false clues, I think. It was quite annoying. But you told me yourself that your father was the district attorney who handled the Armstrong case.
The case haunted my father. At first, he believed Suzanne Moreau had helped her boyfriend, Noah, to kidnap Daisy, even though there were questions that went unanswered, and a young policewoman refused to let it go, continuing to find discrepancies, but never enough to reopen the official investigation.
That policewoman sits there. Her name is Joanna Locke.
Then tell him. Tell him how in the end my father believed you, how he resigned a job that he loved, racked with guilt that he may have let that monster go free. He died young, broken, his faith in justice broken. That's what Ratchet did to him.
Thank you for your honesty, Monsieur McQueen. Your father is one more victim of the man who called himself Ratchet. Now, I will turn to Ratchet's valet, Monsieur Masterman.
Este no tiene relación. A ver la cara. Ir a la cara de malo. Nah, este no tiene relación ninguna. Yo creo que este ha sido un tontito que ha cogido ahí. Yo creo que no.
Poirot, remember Ratchet's
Ay.
sleeping pills.
Me he equivocado. Los tranquilizantes de Ratchet. Ah, verdad, tío. Es verdad, este fue el que se los llevó.
Ratchet sensed danger close to him and naturally wanted to stay awake. You gave him sleeping pills without his knowledge. Once he was sound asleep, you could do what you had to do in peace.
Sir, I'll tell you the truth. I was Colonel Armstrong's adjutant in the war, sir, and afterwards, I was his valet in New York. I'm afraid I concealed the fact this morning. It was very wrong of me, sir, but I knew how suspicious it would look.
Is that all you have to say?
That's all, sir.
Ya está, eso es lo que me tiene que
Now,
decir.
to leave no suspicious stone.
Aquí está mi sospechoso.
What? Me? A
Aquí está mi sospechoso número 1. Mira cómo se pone. Venga, ¿qué decís? Ayudarme. ¿Esta cara de malo es de haber apuñalado? ¿O esta cara de bueno es de no hace nada? Yo repito mi teoría. Mi teoría es que este es el dueño del tren y todos los que están relacionados con el caso Armstrong están dentro. Esa es mi teoría. ¿Qué decís ustedes? ¿Lo apuñaló o no lo apuñaló?
Come now, Poirot.
No lo apuñaló.
Attack if you're not careful.
No lo apuñaló. ¿Cuál es la prueba que exonera a la Book? ¿Es el director de la empresa? ¿Me encontró una habitación en el tren? ¿O nuestra amistad? La amistad no creo yo que tenga nada que ver, la verdad. Que sea el director de la empresa tampoco. Yo creo que va a tirar más de la amistad, ¿no?
Monsieur Book is certainly a very close friend.
No, pues esa no es.
I never allow my affection
¿Ve?
to take precedence.
Es lo que yo había
over
dicho.
reason. It is not tangible proof. His lofty position.
Madre mía, he fallado las dos, ¿vale?
of suspicion.
Ya por descarte.
Murderers can come in all shapes and sizes. Book, my friend, of course you are not guilty. You did everything you could to get me on this train. What madness would cause you to ensure, and I speak with all modesty, that the best detective in the world could be present to witness your crime?
But doesn't our friendship count as well?
Most assuredly, but a murderer can wear all sorts of masks, including friendship. Let us consider our ever-efficient wagon-lit conductor, Pierre Michel.
Apuñaló al señor Michael. Debería, ¿no? Es el padre. Sí. ¿Qué inculpa al señor Michael? Drogó a la señora Locke, es miembro, el padre de la señora Monroe.
No, that is his motive.
Yo estoy fatal, me estoy viniendo abajo, ¿eh? Me estoy viniendo abajo y ustedes no me ayudáis nada. Y me estoy... Vamos. ¿Qué inculpa al señor Michael? Porque drogó a la señora Locke.
Your admission that you drugged Detective Locke immediately incriminates you. But the murder could not have been possible without your very capable assistance. Your knowledge of train procedures made the murder possible, and your position in the corridor of the train allowed you to be the perfect alibi for several passengers. And your motive? Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's poor nanny, who was wrongly accused and committed suicide, was your daughter.
C'est un foiré. He got what he deserved. My poor daughter has finally been avenged. My Suzanne. My child.
Let's move on now to Monsieur Hardman, one of 3 detectives on this train.
Claro, este era el novio.
Monsieur Hardman, I think you are a
Este era el novio de
real
Susan.
detective, but you were never hired by Ratchet. Your alibi was that you were watching the corridor to protect Ratchet, which, of course, you never did. You protected Pierre Michel. However, we just saw that his alibi doesn't hold up, so neither does yours.
I don't know about the conductor.
Being Suzanne's fiancé, you had a substantial motive to punish Ratchet. You used your detective skills, just as Detective Locke did, to hunt him down and finally avenge the death of your beloved.
I That's right, Mr. Poirot. I do have some detective skills.
I never doubted it. Now, Fraulein Schmidt, the lady's maid with the soul of a cook.
Me pone muy nervioso, ¿vale? Me pone muy nervioso su sonrisa. Sí. También drogó a Locke.
Fraulein Schmidt, you told me of your remorse for drugging Detective Locke. I believe you are sincere. However, as the cook of the Armstrong family, you experienced the drama from within. The death of Daisy, then Sonia Armstrong, who died in childbirth, and finally, Suzanne and John Armstrong.
So much misfortune in that poor family. The death of this criminal is only justice.
Let us move on to Countess Andreni. I was impressed by the earnestness of her husband when he swore to me solemnly on his honor that his wife never left her compartment that night. Should I believe it?
La condesa apuñaló, sí. Es la tía de la niña.
Even if it seems logical, it's
pues
more
no.
complicated than that.
La verdad, no, porque esta estaba
Countess
mala, es verdad. Esta tenía vértigo. Esta tenía vértigo. Estaba demasiado débil como para apuñalar.
Countess Andreni is young and fit, physically quite capable of stabbing Ratchet. The problem must be some...
Yo me lo he llevado no por débil de cuerpo, me lo he llevado a débil de que estaba con vértigo, estaba con mareo y entonces estaba débil para apuñalar a alguien. Entonces la hermana.
On the contrary,
O tampoco.
this fact gives her a motive for murder.
Moralmente es incapaz de apuñalar a alguien.
Andreni, being Sonia Armstrong's sister, you had every reason in the world to want to avenge her. But you were incapable of stabbing someone, even after what he had done to you and your family. The night of the crime, you simply took a sleeping pill. I appreciate the irony that nearby, Detective Locke was also in a drugged sleep. When you awoke, you thought the nightmare was over.
Rudolph?
Hush, my love. Hush.
Excellent transition. I was coming to you, Count Andreni.
Pues este sí lo va a apuñalar. Este la apuñaló porque no le gustaba su cara. Es que es lo que le dijo. No voy a hablar contigo porque no me gusta tu cara. Yo creo que reemplazó a la señora Andreni.
12 people, a jury. This was very important to all of you. If Countess Andreni did not stab Ratchet, someone had to take her place. And you, Count, the beloved husband. I've seen how fiercely you love and protect your wife.
Enough! I would do anything for Helena. Anything.
Even that.
Yes, even that. Let's move on to Monsieur Foscarelli.
Este era el chofer del señor Armstrong. Por la cara, ¿vale? ¿Por qué? Porque es italiano. Venga. Porque es atlético. Por la investigación de la señora Locke, hombre.
Locke found out that you were the Armstrong chauffeur, and that you planned to travel on the same train at the same time as Ratchet. That is what made her decide to obtain a ticket as well. Unfortunately, she could not prevent the murder. Have you lost your tongue, Mr. Foscarelli?
Oh, Daisy. She was the delight of the house. Tonio, she called me. And she would sit in the car and pretend to drive me.
And you, Mademoiselle Olson.
Esta es la del
Champion
kimono.
for the immigrants. A worthy calling.
Pero esta no tenía relación, ¿no? Apuñaló la señora Orson a Ratchet? Yo diría que no.
I do not think that's the
Pues
right
sí,
answer.
la señora Orson, pero no. Ahora mismo no sé. No sé qué relación tiene. La coartada de la señora Debenham es reservada. El pestillo de la señora Hubbard.
Mademoiselle Olson, you supported
Entonces no era un
Madame
hombre.
Hubbard's story about her connecting door latch, a story that I later demonstrated to be impossible. So, you deliberately lied to me, and you also lied about Mademoiselle Debenham's whereabouts.
Enough! I can't take this anymore. I know what you want from me, Mr. Poirot. Very well. Here it is. She was my little Daisy, my angel, so patient. When I patched a scrape or took her temperature, that was my job. But she was so much more to me. She was a shining light in an ever-darkening world. I've tried to honor her by caring for children who have lost everything.
Thank you, Mademoiselle Olson. You too shed light on your part in this mystery.
¿Era la enfermera?
You were Daisy Armstrong's nurse. I will ask you no more questions. It is enough that you have admitted what I know to be the truth, and I understand. Let's move on. Dr. Constantine.
You suspect me? I know none of these people. I didn't know Ratchet either, and I've taken a solemn oath to help people, not murder them.
Este no. La prueba de que este no asesinó a nadie es la ayuda en la investigación.
Constantine was certainly helpful
pues no.
to my investigation, but that does not prove he is innocent. You are one of the few people in this room not to have any connection with the Armstrong case. Moreover, your alibi is confirmed by Monsieur Bouc, whom I would trust with my life.
That is very kindly said, my friend.
We now come to Mademoiselle
Yo creo que lo está
Debenham
dejando
and
para el
Captain
final.
Arbuthnot, whose relationship was not in doubt from the moment I inspected your room at the hotel.
You have a bloody nerve.
Indeed, I do.
We're getting married.
Congratulations. But I would rather talk about your relationship to John Armstrong.
¿Qué vincula al capitán Arbuthnot con John Armstrong? Soldados. Claro, eran soldados los dos.
That was easy. Captain Arbuthnot, you served in the army with John Armstrong. What I don't understand is why a man your age is still a captain. One might expect you to be a colonel as well.
Ever fought in a war, Poirot?
It was war that first brought me to England.
Then you know what it's like. There's a shattering sound, and death, and mistakes, acting on intelligence that proved to be wrong. I sent a patrol to their death. Good men, brave men, wasted. John testified on my behalf at a court-martial. I'm not a colonel. I don't deserve to be, you bloody fool. But I'm also not in prison. John remained my best friend until... There, you have my story. Understand now?
Archie, calm down, please.
You're right, Mary. What you see in me, I don't understand.
Oh, Archie, I see in you what John saw.
Miss Debenham, I'm sorry.
My turn, is it?
I'm afraid so. And you have caused me quite a puzzlement. Your connection with the Armstrong family was not obvious. Then I remembered the job you currently hold.
Esta es la que habla idioma, ¿no? Entonces era la profesora de la niña. ¡Ah! Te cogí.
Voilà. You were the teacher of
De Daisy.
No, she
No,
was the teacher
tío.
of Countess André.
Y Daisy tiene 3 años. ¿Cómo va a hablar idiomas?
You were the teacher of Helena Andrény, whose maiden name was Helena Goldenberg before she married Count Andrény.
Yes, absolutely. Why lie to you? She was an excellent student.
Captain Arbuthnot.
Este apuñaló. No, este tenía coartada, ¿no?
No, Poirot.
Oh,
Unlike the
uf.
train, you are on the wrong track.
Madre mía, estoy fallón, ¿eh? ¿Quién inculpa el líquido del cigarrillo electrónico?
No, his vial found at the
That's all.
crime scene was a decoy.
El testimonio del señor
You
McQueen.
had one of the strongest alibis, thanks to Mr. McQueen. But his testimony melted like a snowflake. There went your alibi. Poof. Unless you have another one.
Nada, no hay más
As for
coartada.
you, Mademoiselle Debenham,
La señorita Debenham apuñaló. Le voy a dar que sí. Qué cara de mala, ¿no? La cara de buena no cambia, en verdad, con la que tiene habitualmente. Le voy a dar que sí y va a ser que no, ¿vale? Ah, pues sí. ¿Qué inculpa? ¿Las palabras en la estación de Estambul? ¿El testimonio de la señorita Orson? ¿O Arbuthnot? Las palabras en la estación fue cuando le dijo no, ahora no, cuando acabe todo. ¿Será eso? Yo creo que no, pero le voy a dar.
yes, I remember overhearing
no era eso.
Mademoiselle Debenham talking with the captain at Sirkeci station. She said, not now, when it's all over. That's significant in light of what we now know, but not enough to incriminate her.
Entonces el testimonio de la señora Orson.
Mademoiselle Olsen was the only one who could confirm your alibi. I think you know where you stand.
Very good, Mr. Poirot. Are you satisfied?
I will be soon. Now I must turn to Sonia Armstrong's godmother, Princess Dragomirov. I do not think that's the
¿También le metió puñalada a esta mujer, chiquillo? ¿Y qué cara de mala? Es la única zurda.
Princess Dragomirov, you weren't on my list of suspects at the start, given your social position.
I left my social position in a cold country.
Do you object to being addressed as princess?
I deny people the opportunity. It makes a good story to tell their friends. It also guarantees a good table in the best restaurants.
Princess, there is also, forgive me, your extreme physical fragility.
It does not stop me when I must be strong.
Indeed. Of more importance, though, is the fact that you're the only left-handed person on the train. And the single blow to ratchet from a left-handed person was very, forgive me, weak. Finally, I'm afraid I know the alibi that you shared with Fraulein Schmidt is false.
You have been very thorough, sir. I hope you will permit me to say we are much alike.
I am honored. Now it is time to end with Mrs. Hubbard, or should I say...
Sonia Armstrong. La mamá de la niña.
Think, Poirot, that is not
Oh,
a good
qué bonito hubiese sido. Hubiese sido precioso que hubiese sido la madre de la niña.
answer. Linda Arden. If Princess Dragomirov hadn't told me about her relationship with this famous actress, I might not have made the connection. But you are a great actress, madame. Your performance as a flighty, self-involved woman was superb. I never would have guessed something entirely different. As for what ties you to the Armstrong family, it is obvious.
¿Qué vincula a la señorita Hubbard con la familia Armstrong? ¿La abuela de la niña? La madre de Daisy no es, porque es Sonia Armstrong. Descartada. Madrina de Daisy, ya no lo sé. La única que ha hablado de ella es la princesa. Yo creo que fallamos, ¿eh? Aquí.
No.
¿Ves?
Not good.
Ahí fallamos. La abuela de la niña no va a hacer tampoco, ¿no? ¡Oh!
I'm right again. That happens to me a lot. Mrs. Hubbard, you are the mother of Sonia Armstrong and Mrs. Andreni.
Pues claro, que lo apuñaló. ¿Qué inculpa? La proximidad con Ratchet. No. Que es Linda Arden.
The fact that Madame Hubbard is actually Linda Arden,
Le he dado por darle,
Sonia's mother, and a gifted actress of stage and screen, a woman who could teach her fellow conspirators how to play their roles, makes her one of the best
pone los ojos así,
placed
este
to
hombre?
organize the murder,
Me está dando miedo.
the execution of Ratchet. But I need material proof. The fact that Mrs.
Es necesita para el pestillo. Venga ya, si esa es la coartada, farsa.
No accident, but it does not incriminate her directly. Madame Hubbard, you really are
Esa es la coartada farsa que me dio.
actress. You put so much effort into your character and into staging the murder. I saw it as a perfect mosaic, each person playing his or her allotted part. So carefully arranged that if suspicion should fall on any one person, the evidence of one or more of the others would clear the accused person and confuse the issue. Everything was meticulously planned. But you hadn't expected that Detective Locke and I would be on this train, and the avalanche would block it on the night of the murder. You had to improvise. But again, improvisation would be another of your skills as an actress. So you came up with the story that the latch on the door that communicated with Ratchet's compartment was hidden by the handbag.
I always fancied myself in comedy parts. That slip about the sponge bag was silly. Shows you should always rehearse properly. You know all about it, Mr. Poirot. You're a very wonderful man, but even you can't quite imagine what it was like. That awful day. I was just crazy with grief. So were the servants. We decided then and there that the sentence of death that Ratchet had escaped
Ahí están los 12.
got to be carried out. There were 12 of us, or rather 11. Suzanne's father was over in France, of course. First we thought we'd draw lots as to who should do it, but in the end we decided on this way. It was the driver, Antonio, who suggested it. Mary worked out all the details later with Hector McQueen. It took a long time to perfect our plan. We first had to track Ratchet down. Hardman managed that in the end. Then we had to try and get Edward and Hector into his employment. Well, we managed that. Then we had a consultation with Suzanne's father. Captain Arbuthnot was very keen on having 12 of us. He seemed to think it made it more orderly. He didn't like the stabbing idea much. But he agreed that it did solve most of our difficulties. Well, Suzanne's father was willing. Suzanne had been his only child. We knew from Hector that Ratchet would be coming back from the east, sooner or later, by the Orient Express. With Pierre Michel actually working on that train, the chance was too good to be missed. My daughter's husband had to know, of course, and he insisted on coming on the train with her. Hector wrangled it so that Ratchet selected the right day for traveling when Michel would be on duty. And then, at the last minute, you came. For the rest of the story, you worked out everything, Mr. Poirot. You were right about all of us. What are you going to do about it? If it must all come out, can't you lay the blame upon me, and me only? I would have stabbed that man 12 times willingly. It wasn't only that he was responsible for my daughter's death, and her child's, and that of the other child who might have been alive and happy now. It was more than that. There had been other children kidnapped before Daisy, and there might be others in the future. Society had condemned him. We were only carrying out the sentence, but it's unnecessary to bring all these others into it, all these good, faithful souls.
You are a director of the company, Monsieur Bouc. What do you say?
In my opinion, Poirot, the first theory you put forward was the correct one. Decidedly so. I suggest that is the solution we offer to the police. You agree, Doctor?
Certainly, I agree. As regards the medical evidence, I think that I made one or two fantastic suggestions.
Then, having placed my solution before you, I have the honor to retire from the case.
Y hasta aquí. Y hasta aquí. Esto lo vamos a terminar de ver todo junto, ¿vale?
I'm sorry to wake you up in the middle of the night, Poirot, but it couldn't wait. There was a detail that bothered me in my preliminary autopsy of Ratchet's body. I went back to examine the body and I discovered a wound covered by another. The blow I hadn't seen was delivered by a thinner, sharper blade. So there were not 12, but 13 stab wounds.
12 stabs for 12 jurors. It doesn't work with 13 wounds. The symmetry is destroyed.
It can't be one of the culprits who stabbed him twice?
Doctor, a different knife was used. There is only one explanation. Somehow, some way, there is a 13th murderer on this train. We must tell Bouc. The case is not solved.
Vaya. Vaya giro, ¿no? Vaya giro acaba de dar esto.
Please, come in. Ah, Bouc. I see we are moving at last.
Yes. The way was finally cleared while we slept. If all goes well, we will arrive in Venice this evening. The train will be there for several hours for refueling and reprovisioning. What do we do with the 13th murderer? Do you have a lead?
I thought about it. There is one clue that was left aside in my investigation. The diary I found in Ratchet's safe mentioned an appointment in Venice. Someone with the initials A.W. He will never keep the appointment. But there should be enough time. I must try to keep that appointment for him.
Amigo, es verdad. Yo tengo sitio porque uno no pudo subir al tren por algo en especial. ¿Dónde y cuándo iba a tener encuentro? Porque no puedo abrir. Iba a ser... Pero déjame abrir esto. Ah, lo puedo abrir, perdón. Aquí. Era en... Esto en Venecia a las 10. En el... Enviar dinero al Cairo. A ver. Aquí lo cierro, ¿no? Espérate. Llamar a Cairo. Mirar las carpetas. Llamar a DC. A la del Orient Express. Confirmar. Confirmar nada. Meet AW. Esto era. En la fontana di Conigli. Aquí es. En la fontana di Conigli. En la fontana di Conigli. Adiós, lo de la hora no lo he visto yo. Ah, otra vez. Hay que ver, ¿eh? Aquí, vamos a ver. Aquí ponía la hora con AV. AW. Aquí. AW a las 22. A las 22 horas. ¿En la ciudad de qué? No lo pone, ¿no? Aquí, ¿no? En Venecia, ¿no? Pues si a las 8 llega a Venecia. Y esto es enviar dinero al Cairo. En Venecia. En Venecia a las 10 de la noche. A ver. Ah, mira, que lo puedo dejar abierto. En Venecia a las 22 del día 18. L. Es que lo puedo dejar abierto. Hay cosas que...
That was easy.
Yo me entero de todo. Ensayo error. Habla con el doctor Constantin. Aquí.
Doctor, a moment. Have you made arrangements for Ratchet's body?
Yes, it will be collected by the Italian authorities when we reach Venice. The autopsy will be performed there. However, there is something odd.
Oh?
Since the train is French, jurisdiction must be shared. When I told them you were already on the scene, they have both agreed to support your investigation until we reach Paris. Ratchet's compartment will be sealed until we arrive there. All of those who conspired to kill Ratchet are to be confined to the train until then as well.
So, thanks to you, I am the rope in a tug-of-war between two countries.
Oh, but I thought you would want to be in charge. And isn't it odd we continue on our journey with a trainload of people that police consider potential murderers?
Calm yourself, Doctor. It is not the first time I find myself in the middle. And, to be honest, I welcome the chance to see this case through. It is fast becoming one of the most challenging of my career. So, my dear book, how does our journey progress?
We are well on our way to Venice. All
Al
of our
final se
passengers
está alargando esto más de lo que
are booked
creía,
by
¿eh?
order of the authorities. I watch them when they want to stretch their legs, like the captain there behind you.
I see that you have the situation well in hand. Would you be able to accompany me to Venice to follow a lead?
I'm honored you asked me, my friend. I would have loved to help you. But I have to manage the situation here. I must make sure no one gets off the train in Venice and that Ratchet's body is transferred.
Tengo que ir a la habitación 105. Creo que era. A este hombre no le vamos a preguntar. Vamos a hablar con él porque vamos a tener que hablar con él.
I'm not going to ask him.
Claro, cojones. Es decir, que no tiene sentido. No tiene sentido ni que lo ponga. Mírala, ¿dónde está? Venga.
Mademoiselle Locke, you are clearly an excellent police officer. Could you accompany me to Venice for an investigation into Ratchet's activities? There is much we still need to know.
Well, yes. It would be an honor to work with you. And I'm glad you trust me. What do you have in mind?
There was a notation in Ratchet's appointment book. He had an appointment.
With who?
There were only the initials A.W. They were to meet at 10 o'clock at the Fontana dei Conigli. I want to know who Ratchet was meeting and why.
But you've already discovered the 12 conspirators. Why is this meeting important?
Unfortunately, the case is not complete. Dr. Constantin has discovered the presence of a 13th stab wound.
One of them could have stabbed him twice.
The wound was made with another, finer blade. Why would one of them have used two knives? Did they want to confess they killed him more than the others? And if so, why bother to deny it when they have already confessed? No, it makes no sense. And I do not close a case until all questions have been answered. You, of all people, must understand this.
You're right. I do understand. I'll help you.
Thank you. Together, we will uncover the truth. We will arrive in a few hours. Take the opportunity to rest.
I slept well last night. No more effects of the drug.
Excellent. Then, be prepared when we reach Venice. We have another mystery to solve.
This is the third embarking dock, and no gondoliers available at all. With Carnival, you can't find a gondolier to cross that damn canal. They're all booked. The worst thing is that the fountain is just across this canal. We're almost there.
I see a gondolier just over there.
¿Sabéis qué va a pasar? Que hasta aquí vamos a llegar hoy. Sí, señores, hasta aquí vamos a llegar hoy. Me voy a despedir ya. Hasta mañana. Muchas gracias por haber estado ahí.